Let's just keep it on the course, Kyle. Keep it between the fairways, man.
Welcome to Center Cup. I'm Kyle Muserino with Nick Newmeyer and Will Neary. On today's show, we're going to talk a little bit about the LPGA as it returns. We've got a little Farmers Insurance Open preview, and we will also hit on some of the recent news, including Brooks Koepka's return to the PGA Tour and his press conference from the Farmers Insurance Open. Will, what did you think about that Brooks Koepka press conference? What were some of the main takeaways in your eyes?
I thought it was fairly unremarkable, to be honest. I thought it seemed like Brooks said the things that we kind of expected him to say. I think the one thing, he obviously harped on his family a lot as being a major reason why he decided to come back. He was, very gracious to Tiger, to Brian Rolap, to the PGA Tour, and to the leadership at LIV for allowing him to make this move. He obviously was unwilling to disclose or discuss any specifics regarding his contract and how those negotiations went surrounding his departure. But again, he mentioned his family a lot. It seems like there's some deeper stuff there that I'm not really willing to speculate on. I feel like that's not worth it and doesn't seem respectful to try to figure that one out. But it seems like he's really happy to be back, to have his family out at this event. They're coming to the Farmers Insurance Open. Obviously, I think, Nick, you mentioned that it's a lot easier to do that than to fly out to Riyadh to go watch him on LIV.
Yeah, I think it was a Brooks Koepka press conference.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is kind of what we all expected. He's kind of just here to play golf and isn't really paying attention to what's going on with the noise. I think, I said it before we went live that, everybody likes to nitpick. Obviously, he credited LIV as being closer to his family, and that's why he made the jump in the first place. Now he's using the same exact reasoning to come back. I'm not choosing to make anything of it. I think, as I mentioned, it's a lot easier for the family to fly to Florida or to California than it is to Riyadh. And it sounds like maybe there was some family situation that it was difficult to travel, and I think them being more so based in the United States, I think that might be a bit easier to manage. So I'm glad he has that situation taken care of, and obviously we wish everybody good health. But yeah, I think looking at what to expect from Brooks Koepka, I think we have to taper our expectations a little bit. I think even he acknowledged that there were some nerves heading into the week. I think it seems all eyes are going to be on him, including a larger audience from an increased ESPN window. I think everybody's going to be watching him this week.
Definitely. And like you said, I think he did mention that he was a little nervous. He actually mentioned, funnily enough, in the press conference that it might have been the press conference that he actually was nervous about. And part of what he's most excited about is being out where he's familiar playing golf, because that's where he says he feels the most comfortable, and I can understand that. And I think he mentioned that he's a little nervous about how fans might react. I, for one, am excited to see him back. I'm hopeful that all the fans at the Farmers have the same thought process and are not going to be heckling and at all, rude to him. I think he deserves a welcoming atmosphere, and I think he more than likely will get one. It sounds like all the interactions he's had with players and leadership have been nothing but positive to this point. So
yeah, I think we're going to know very early how he's going to be received. Like on the first few holes, I think we're going to see what the vibe is, and I'm expecting people to be happy. Obviously, you're going to have probably one or two knuckleheads that'll say something stupid, but I think if there's anybody that was more capable of just shutting out the noise and playing golf, it's Brooks Koepka. I think he might be the best fitted to deal with a situation like this.
100%. Yeah, he did mention, I think he said that he talked about how much he loves the grind and how excited he is to come back to an event like the Farmers, which is funny considering he's known well as a major champion and somebody who really peaked at majors, just knew how to bring his performance up at the majors. And it's funny looking at his performance at Torrey Pines specifically for the Farmers, and there was the one U.S. Open in 2021. So his track record at the Farmers and at that U.S. Open was he was cut at the 2022 Farmers, of course was T4 at the U.S. Open in 2021, which I believe John Rahm took the victory that year. At the 2021 Farmers, same course, he was cut. At the 2017 Farmers, cut, and T41 at the 2015 Farmers. So it's a good example of, where this guy peaked in the past, but I'm excited to see how he, now not being into most of these signature events, I think he's still qualified for the Players and a couple others, but not being automatically qualified to most of these signature events, I'm excited to see how he will approach these smaller events that he will now need in order to get himself into the position that he used to be in pretty much automatically.
Right, and I think we'll see him at obviously this week at the Farmers. We'll see him next week at the Waste Management, and then he's going to play the Cognizant as well.
Yeah,
I think it's a sentence I never thought I would say in my lifetime that Brooks Koepka was playing there, but we'll see him there, and then he said he's still qualified for the Players, and he will be playing there as well. And so I think we're really going to see him kind of just make a push for the signature events. I think his goal probably would be to be qualified for signature events by Augusta. I think that's probably fair. And so I'm interested to see what he can do. I think he's on his game. I think he's trended well. He's been playing well. I don't think it's going to be him just – hold on. I think we'll see a good version of Brooks Koepka this week, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is this kind of – he's got a rejuvenation right now of getting back into the PGA Tour golf. So is that reputation of him only showing up for majors, is that still going to be the case, or is he going to be a little bit more motivated to kind of get going here, starting with the Farmers Insurance Open into the Phoenix Open Waste Management, as we roll through this PGA Tour season, like you said, to qualify for some of the bigger events?
And I think it's a new setting for him. He hasn't had to really grind like this in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like beforehand, it was just him focusing on the majors, whereas now, obviously, he's still qualified for all the majors, but now he needs to qualify for more events. So I think every event is basically going to be a major for him now, which is foreign territory for him.
Yeah, we're probably pushing a decade since he's had to sweat these ones out, right?
Yeah.
Since he had to care about the Farmers. But yeah, like you said, I'm excited to see how he performs this week. I think, like we said yesterday or in Monday's episode, he will be paired up with Ludwig and Max Homa, assuming Ludwig is healthy and ready to go when we get to Thursday, which, fingers crossed, I hope he is. Considering his performances at Farmers last year, I think that would be really exciting to see, or at Torrey Pines at least, when he won the Genesis here. But it'll be cool to see him among, the players. I know Max Homa is one of the ones who have been most outwardly welcoming to Brooks, I think, since his announced return back. But there's a lot to look forward to this week. I think, should we get into some of the other guys, some of the course, some of the tournament we're looking forward to?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, like we said, we're at Torrey Pines this week for the Farmers. This is, a long-standing event. It's been here since the 1960s. It was the San Diego Open for a long time. And obviously last year, they also hosted the Genesis here. So, we're going to talk about a couple guys with some course history here. And just know that when we do that, we are kind of tying the Genesis in because it was, a couple-week break between the Farmers Insurance that was played here and then the Genesis that was displaced following the fires that broke out around Los Angeles, which forced the tournament to move away from Riviera, where it usually is. So, and the South Course, like I mentioned, also hosted those two U.S. Opens. Tiger Woods won it in 2008, Jon Rahm in 2021. But it's kind of similar to last week in that it takes place across a couple courses. A little different that it's only two this week. Obviously, there's the North Course and the South Course at Torrey Pines, and players will switch between the two on Thursday and Friday, and then we'll play both weekend rounds on the South Course. One note that I found interesting when I was looking at the recent victors of this tournament is that 6 of the last 7, I believe, played on the North Course on Thursday before having 3 consecutive days on the South Course. Tiny sample size, probably nothing there, but I thought it was worth noting. And obviously, as of now, we don't have tee times available to us to know who is going to fall into which category there, which is probably good because knowing me, I would overthink the hell out of that. But it is an interesting tidbit, and I kind of get that conceptually, right, that playing one course 3 times in a row, especially leading into the weekend, would have that kind of settling effect a little bit if you're able to play it Friday and know what's coming for you on Saturday and Sunday, at least more immediately than if you had played the North on Friday. Sorry.
Yeah, certainly makes sense. I mean, like Torrey Pines, historically not an easy course. This is obviously one of the tournaments that really makes you grind each and every year. And so I'm excited to see just who's really capable of making that grind this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And last year it was Harris English who was capable of making that grind, obviously for the Farmers. And then, like we mentioned, it was Ludwig who won the Genesis here. Just a couple weeks later, the year before that, we saw Mathieu Pavon won it at 13 under. I think that was I remember watching that one, and I remember that was one of the ones where I'm watching, I'm like, somebody's going to come up and take this from him, right? somebody. I believe Stefan Jaeger was another one that was kind of in the mix in that tournament or around that time, and nobody ended up taking it. Pavone won that, and he's proved that, it was a deserving win. I think he's gone on to do. We see him on near the top of leaderboards pretty consistently. Max Homa's got a win here. Our favorite Patrick Reed, love him or hate him, he did win here in 2021. Jason Day's won here twice. We'll get to him a little later. I know one of us is really excited to see him play this week at least. But there's some guys who have some good course history here as well. A couple names worth mentioning if Nick, you want to take any of those, or Kyle.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, Hideki Matsuyama. He's really only finished outside of the top 20 in 2 of his last 12 starts, including 2 starts in the DP World Tour and 1 on the Japanese Tour. He has played the Farmers every year since 2014, so that's 12 starts, 14 if we're including the U.S. Open and the Genesis. He's got 3 top 15s, 1 top 10 in his last 3 appearances at Torrey Pines. I'm a little cautious on him, though.
I know. He is one of those guys, though, that I thought it was a fun note that he's played here every year since 2014, especially on the back of talking about Brooks Koepka, guys who don't. I know Hideki tends to love this early season swing. Obviously, there's a lot in Hawaii where he tends to play great. But it's interesting that a guy of that stature, obviously he's won the Masters in that stretch, and yet he's still out here every year playing the Farmers Insurance Open. And I have a little bit of respect for him like that, for that. But like you said, Nick, I'm a little wary to dive in on Hideki this week. I don't think I've seen quite enough this year yet to really feel particularly confident.
Yeah, his long iron play, like he fits the course profile very well, but I mean that putting is just abysmal right now. Like
Yeah.
that was a tough watch at the Sony, and so I feel like I need to see some improvements on that before I can start backing him for tournaments.
Yeah, I think we'll get into this, but the theme I feel like for this tournament, at least when I was looking at names, because obviously we'll do our picks this week. We'll put those out tomorrow on Wednesday this week when this episode airs as well. I for one was looking at this list and I was kind of dumbfounded. I feel like when we looked at the tournament last week, you're looking at the list, you see Scotty at the top, and at the very least, you know that somebody good is going to have to step up and beat Scotty. Like I wouldn't look particularly far down the leaderboard last week, just because, or the odds list, I guess, last week, because I'm like, you know what, if Scotty's gonna lose, it's gonna be to one of these guys like the Ben Griffins or the Russell Henleys or these guys that can really, or the Ludwig Obergs, as my pick was. But this week, it feels wide open, man. I mean, I'm looking at the top of this list. There's Xander Schauffele, there's Ludwig Oberg again, who has the health questions. There's Cam Young, Patrick Cantlay, and there's a lot of names that I'm thinking could find their way towards the top of this leaderboard that are not up there on the odds board.
For sure, yeah.
I'm looking at Tony Finau as one of the guys here. In his last 5 starts, including the 2025 Genesis, he's got 3 top 10s and 2 cuts. He was cut in his first 2 events here of the 2026 season. Hasn't had a top 10 since his tied for 5th at the Genesis last year. But that did come at Torrey Pines, so he's a guy who's familiar with the course, plays well there, and although hasn't been in great form recently, I think this could be a spot where he plays. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him in that top 10 come Sunday.
Yeah, Tony's just the guy you're rooting for all the
100%.
time.
It's a good point, too. I mean, it's like you never see these guys breaking out right until they do. Like, there's always this stretch of bad form, and eventually they have that tournament that turns them around. And it feels like a tournament at Torrey Pines for Tony Finau could be one of those. I wouldn't be I would be surprised, but I think it's a great bet for somebody that's a little farther down the leaderboard to take a good step on this one. Another guy I was looking at was Xander Schauffele. He's T13 and T9 in his last 2 events in the Farmers at his last 2 events at the Farmers in 2023 and 2024. He won his most recent start at the Bay Current Classic, which was his only win since the 2024 Open Championship, which I think I conceptually knew, but still was a little bit surprising to me to see with my own eyes. And obviously the Bay Current Classic is not the field that the 2024 Open Championship was. And he finds himself at the top of this odds board, but I again, kind of similar to Hideki, I'm like, I kind of want to see it before I start really believing it. And I know that sounds stupid when he's coming off a win, but I feel like I haven't seen him play nearly to the level that we saw in 2024 recently at all. And I hope that he can step it back up this year, but it's been Again, I'm gonna wait till he proves it on a real PGA Tour stage before I start picking him to win any of these.
Yeah, I think he's someone that's like always just going to be there. Like
Mhm.
you're going to see him around the leaderboard, but he's got to take that extra step and just assert himself again. So maybe this will be the week. We'll see.
Absolutely, it could be any week could be the week.
And then obviously Max Homa, previous winner here. He showed some good signs at the Amex and towards the end of the 2025 season, but similar to Finau, he only has 2 top 10s since May 2024. Not on the greatest of stretches for Homa, but maybe some familiar territory could help. And then obviously Ludwig Oberg, historically very good at Torrey Pines, but once again, just his illness, like that's just a massive question mark heading into the week, and we'll see how he's feeling and if he could possibly be in contention, just depending on his health.
Yeah, it seemed like he was getting ready to make a charge this past weekend, and then getting sick just kind of derailed that, obviously. I know we had one guy in here forecasting quite a low score for him right before he withdrew. So you have to think it was going to happen if he didn't get sick.
The sources were saying he was going low. I know I keep saying that, but no. I mean, I think I said on Monday, he would have had to go, I think, 18 under to even challenge Scotty from when he withdrew. But hey, until he doesn't do that, there's an asterisk. That's all I'm saying. Scotty, I don't know if I'm willing to count that as his 20th win. I say 19.
Remember, what was it, a few years ago when they said every major should have like an asterisk if
Yeah.
Taylor Gooch wasn't playing
Yeah,
it?
yeah, they got to. I mean, still, he's still not out there.
What's he up to nowadays?
Who knows, man? He's lost in the fold of Live Golf somewhere.
Didn't meet the requirements for the returning member program?
I somehow, I think he must have slipped through the cracks. Brian Roloff should reevaluate that. Maybe throw Patrick Reed in there, but also especially Taylor Gooch.
I mean, it would remove the stigma of the PGA Tour as
Exactly.
cowards if they let Taylor Gooch back in the field.
Absolutely.
And just quickly on Homa and Schauffele, those guys always seem to be high on odds boards. They're popular bets usually, and like you're talking about with Schauffele, who hasn't won since that 2024 Open Championship, which is a little shocking. I feel like, I don't know if this is just anecdotal from me, but both of those guys being Southern California guys just feels like they play well in those courses too. So I don't know if they're going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised seeing both of those guys in at least top 15, top 20 area.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's always good to be close to home, and I think we'll definitely see. I would be interested to see if they can convert on that.
100%. Homa, for one, I know is somebody who has talked a lot about how important it is for him to be close to home. But yeah, I think when we look at, obviously we just mentioned some guys that have had some pretty good course history here. I'm not going to bore everybody with data. The course fit here is really driving distance, long iron play, approach play, and a little bit around the greens. But some guys who fit that mold that we didn't already talk about, that's Chris Gotterup, Cam Young, both of the Højgaard twins, Rasmus and Nikolai. Jake Knapp is another one to watch, Wyndham Clark, Taylor Pendrith. I do have a couple names. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into these, I promise. A couple names that stood out to me. Patrick Rogers is kind of doing stuff more than I thought he was. He's at plus 5,700, kind of middle of the field this week among people who you might actually consider to be in contention. And he has 3 top 10s in his last 5 PGA Tour starts. Obviously, outside of this recent form, he has not played particularly well, but he was 3rd at the Sony. Unfortunately, was T44 at the Amex. But he was T3 at the Genesis in 2025 and has racked up 3 top 10s in his career at the Farmers Insurance Open since 2017, which includes a T9 in 2024. So some recent good form here. And he is also one of the guys whose, driver distance and his long iron play are key contributors to what make him a good player and what's given him some good results recently. He's somebody I'd be interested to watch and wouldn't be terribly surprised if he found his way up there among some of the leaders come Saturday, Sunday.
Mm-hmm. You kind of alluded to it a bit earlier in the episode too, but I'm really feeling Jason Day this week. I think he was one of the best players in the field at the Amex, not named Scotty Scheffler. And if you look at the stats, I mean, these are kind of, I don't want to say flawed stats, but these only include the stadium course at PGA West. He was tied for the most strokes gained on the field on Sunday with 5.3 strokes gained, more than Scotty Scheffler. Anytime you can say that, I feel like you're in a pretty good spot. His around the green putting, he was one of the best players in the field, and I think this course, He's a two-time winner. Excuse me. He was up there in 2022. I think it was between him and Luke List. I think that was kind of took it down to the wire. So he's someone that historically plays very well at Torrey, and I think he's someone that I would expect to be. He's playing on a heater right now. I would expect him to continue that this week at Torrey.
Absolutely. I think one other guy, Will Zalatoris, who played really well at the Amex last week. He's top 20 in both of his 2 starts since getting back from injury. In both of those starts since coming back at the Ned Bank Golf Challenge on the DP World Tour and the Amex last week. He has lost strokes to the field and driving distance, but he has good finishes here in the past, especially in his best run of form. Tied for 7th in 2021 and runner-up in 2022. So those are a few guys we're keeping our eyes on here for Farmers Insurance Open this coming week. Looking forward to that one. Should be good weather, should be good conditions. So we think that's going to be a fun tournament to keep our eye on.
I mean, Kyle, you're the California guy. What can we expect from the weather forecast?
Oh, it's going to be sunny and 70s. That's what I would always expect. Be a little chilly in the morning, as it usually is in January and early February, but not going to be a ton of wind. You're not going to have to deal with any, extenuating weather circumstances. So it should be nice and beautiful. Typical Southern California weekend, I'd imagine.
We love to see it. So now that's not the only tournament being played this week as well. We have the LPGA coming back at the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions at Lake Nona Golf and Country Club in Orlando. So what can we expect from the LPGA this year? I think it's a very interesting year for them. Obviously, we have the new media rights deal, which is arguably one of the greatest things to happen to the league so far. They partnered with the leading commercial property insurer, FM, on a multi-year agreement to transform the broadcasting of the North American events, which includes development in technology, partnerships with Golf Channel and TrackMan, which will bring what was previously only available during major championships to the tour just every week now. So you'll see, starting in 2026, the investment will allow for more cameras, You're going to see a lot more slow motion. You're going to see 3 times as many microphones on tee boxes and just around the course that you saw in 2025. Drone coverage is a huge plus. I know we've seen that a lot on CBS for the men's coverage. That's been really good. And you're going to see a heightened focus on athlete storytelling. I think there's going to be a lot of just really trying to show people who these athletes are, show them that they're very talented players and they deserve to follow. And I think the best part is that these events are going to be broadcast live now. They're not going to be on tape delay. So what you're going to see most likely, this isn't been confirmed yet, but what you're going to see is when the PGA is on Golf Channel and then makes that jump to either CBS or NBC Sports like it usually does, then we'll see the LPGA live at the same time, because I think a lot of people forget they are playing at the same time. So it's going to be good to see them getting the attention that they deserve, and hopefully this leads to more heightened coverage of the LPGA moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it means that the LPGA is not going to be bumped nearly as often as they have been in the past, both on weekends and otherwise. Being able to broadcast live on Golf Channel is a big deal on Saturday and Sunday. I think, it's something that we were all sort of wary of, but I don't necessarily think got the spotlight it deserved. The fact that we were watching LPGA on tape delay so that theoretically people could focus on the PGA Tour on weekends, which is a sign of the dispersion that still exists between men's and women's sports in some ways. But this is a really good step in the right direction, that we will have live coverage of the LPGA weekend rounds. We will have, for these tournaments that are getting bigger. I mean, the purse expansion this year, I think the prize fund is over $132 million this year, which is up 90% from 2021. And that obviously majors carry some of the brunt of that, but there are, purses that reach 4 or 5 million outside of the majors as well. Obviously FM is, I believe that the tournament that FM sponsors is the highest non-major purse on the LPGA Tour, but it's a really good sign, and I'm really excited to spend some Saturdays and Sundays watching the LPGA and what they can do. And I think another thing we saw today, Kyle, I don't know if you want to touch on what Nelly Korda said regarding the TGL. Obviously, we have recently had some news on the WTGL, the expansion to women for the Tomorrow Golf League, which is obviously the indoor simulator golf league. But Nelly had some interesting comments regarding some missed opportunities, she thought.
Yeah, this just came out a little before we hopped on here, so we thought it was pertinent to touch on it. Nelly Korda, obviously one of the most popular women's golfers there are, top American. She's definitely, when she talks, people listen, value what she has to say. So I'll just run through this quote she had really quick. She said, "I have mixed feelings on it if I'm being very honest, and I'm surprised no other girls have, or no one's really spoken out about it. I think it's a huge and unbelievable miss that we're not playing alongside the men. There's no greater way to grow the game, and it would have been revolutionary. It would have been the first time, I think, that men and women are on the same playing field, playing for the exact amount of money, but I also think it's great we are getting this opportunity, so that's my mixed feelings." Nick, what do you think about that?
I think she's not wrong. I think I've honestly been very critical of TGL over the last year. I think we've seen ESPN's been publicizing the viewership totals, and it's not pretty. It's not. It's certainly not something that's going to draw a lot of attention. I think we're seeing if Tiger's not playing, he has been playing, but if he's not at the event or if Rory's not playing, you're not really getting that draw. And I think what Nelly Korda's trying to argue is that if people aren't coming out to watch the men, then they're certainly not going to come out and watch the women that they more than likely haven't even heard of.
Sure.
And so I feel like if you're going to grow that game, I think it's obviously you're playing inside. You're not on these like outdoor long courses. I feel like it's a really great opportunity to bring the players all together and give them that publicity at the same time. You're not taking it away from anybody. You're kind of just presenting it in the same light. And so obviously would have been a bit harder to implement because TGL is mid-season right now, but I feel like she's not wrong.
No, I think she's definitely not wrong. And as the resident advocate for the TGL, shout out Ball Frogs on a great victory last night. As the resident advocate for the TGL, she's definitely not wrong. This was a missed opportunity. I think, like you said, the draw for TGL, if they have a draw, is the names, right? It's Tiger Woods, it's Rory, it's the major golfers that they have competing in this simulator league. It is a massive loss on their end not to get Nelly Korda to be a part of it, to have her coming out and, not slandering, but effectively expressing her mixed feelings on the topic, because she has been the face of American golf for how long? Like going on a decade now?
Probably, yeah, at least, yeah.
Like she has been the face of American women's golf for a very, very long time, has one of the most decorated careers in LPGA history, and is, unfortunately not supporting TGL, which I think is, like you said, Nick, very fair from her perspective, and from it is a missed opportunity. TGL should have absolutely found a way to integrate the men's and women's games in what is effectively a video game, right? Like, this is not complicated, unfortunately.
Well, hold on. I just want to clarify. She's not slandering. She's not opposing it. She's just pointing out that, like, I think she says, like, at the end as well, like, they are getting the opportunity at all. Like, yeah. I feel like just they're getting that is a win for her. So I think that's, I wouldn't say she's against it, but I think she's just pointing out that it can be better, which I think is totally fair.
100%. No, like I said, she's expressing her mixed feelings. It's definitely not slander by any means. But I guess my point being is that, one, it's a missed opportunity that they didn't have men and women playing alongside each other already. It's arguably even a bigger missed opportunity that they don't have Nelly Korda in the women's TGL league at this point. I think she's such a massive face, especially for American audiences, that's really another, like, that's a huge missed opportunity. Both of these are, obviously.
Yeah, to me it sounded like she's just more frustrated than anything, and I think the biggest thing I took away from the quote was the missed opportunity. I think, it's great that WTGL is getting its own part of it, and maybe we'll see something down the line where those cross. But speaking of the LPGA and the WTGL, we are going to integrate the women into our follow-through picks. So like we've been updating you guys on guys we've been picking for the tournaments, we're going to each pick a LPGA member as well. And I'll start us off here. I'm going with a real shocker breakthrough pick. I'm going to go with Gino Titiku, world number one.
That's a bit boring.
I mean, what am I supposed to do here? You got Scotty for the guys, so I'm going to take Gino for the women. She's lowest scored average on the LPGA Tour ever last year. She was the youngest golfer ever to win a professional tournament back in 2017 when she won at just 14 years old. She is one of the nicest people in every article you read about her, and a stone cold killer on the course. So she is going to be my pick for the follow-through. Will, who you got?
That's a good one. It is a little chalky, but it's a good one. I'm going to go with Hyjin Choi, who kind of a theme I noticed when diving a little deeper into a lot of these really young women that are at the top of the LPGA game is how long they've been good, which is crazy when you're talking about Gino Thidakun, who's 22, I believe, right now, and some of these other golfers, they are still so young, but they are pretty much veterans. Obviously, there are plenty of examples like that, but Haejin Choi, for example, represented South Korea in the 2014 Asian Games at the age of 15, helped her team to a silver medal and finished fifth. She won the 2015 World Junior Girls Championship, the Canadian Women's Amateur in 2016. She was low-am at the U.S. Open in 2016. The list goes on and on. She was also the leading money winner after turning professional on the LPGA of Korea Tour in 2019, and she earned her tour card in 2022. But what really interests me about Choi is that in 2025, she played 24 events on the LPGA Tour, made 22 cuts, tallied 9 top 10s, and earned $2.2 million, which was 8th on the tour, but did not record a win. And she also recorded 3 top 10s in majors last year alone. So it's an opportunity this year, I think, for her to convert. I think
she's due. Is what you're saying.
She's so very due, and I'm hoping that I'm putting my chips on the table at the right time here, because I'm really looking forward to watching her play a lot this year, following her career as it progresses over this season. She's proven that she's got what it takes to be successful on the LPGA Tour, on tours around the world. I'm excited to see her really step on the gas. I think that this is an opportunity for her to, obviously she unfortunately won't be playing this week because it is the Tournament of Champions, and like I said, she did not record a win. However, I think this time next year we'll be talking a little bit about Haejin Choi and what we expect from her at the Tournament of Champions.
For sure. And so Kyle, you got the world number one in your corner, and I'm gonna pick someone who I feel could be the world number one very soon, and that's Lottie Wood. She's one of the youngest in the field. She's 22 years old, but she made her debut over the summer. She finished her collegiate career with Florida State at the 2025 NCAA Championships, won, of course, by our Northwestern Wildcats.
Go
and
Cats.
Immediately she just got off to a great start. She won the Women's Irish Open on the Ladies European Tour, and she won it by 6 strokes as an amateur. And
Crazy.
so she already kicked off her career in a great start. She was a low amateur at 2 of the 4 major championships she played over the summer, including T3 at the Evian Championship, which vaulted her to 64th in the Rolex rankings, which is the second highest rank an amateur has ever reached, behind only Lydia Ko when the system debuted in 2026. So after that, she turned pro, which, I mean, what else can she do but win her first ever professional start at the Women's Scottish Open?
Sheesh.
She had a T8 finish at the British Open in August, solo third at the Kroger Queen City Championship, and she's 11th in the Rolex rankings right now. So if she's not due for an explosion in 2026, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, she's someone that I'm very excited to see. I think we're going to be hearing about her for a very long time, I think. And so I'm excited to follow her this year.
Absolutely. And like you said, she did record a win last year, which means she will be playing this week at the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions. She is one of the 39 LPGA winners from the last 2 seasons who will compete. It's a unique week, one of the more unique weeks, I think, across both tours. So for a little background, in case anybody's unfamiliar, like I said, there are 39 LPGA competitors who do compete in a standard no-cut 72-hole event, what you'd expect. However, they also do play alongside celebrities. There are athletes like Ray Allen and Charles Woodson in the field, actors like Brian Bumgarner, I know, is there, several media personalities, and they play in their own modified Stableford tournament with its $500,000 purse for the celebrities to win, which I think it's a little bit funny. I mean, I don't necessarily think that all these celebrities are, desperate for money, but it is a fun way to integrate the amateur, and by amateur I mean real amateur, not like some of the amateurs we just discussed, like Lottie Wood when she was an amateur, but the real true hack golf game with the LPGA and some of these fantastic female golfers out there.
So it's going to be like Pebble Beach on steroids, is what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Thank you for putting it in words that I couldn't.
And I will just say as well, like, the LPGA is doing what I really want to see. I mean, if we ever find ourselves back at Kapalua ever again for the season opener, like, obviously fingers crossed there, it won't go back to this, but I really want to go back to the Tournament of Champions. Like make it matter to play in Hawaii. And obviously I understand why they expanded it. You have more players. Like they opened it up to, I think, what was it? Anybody that qualified for the FedEx Cup playoffs. Like more people, more sponsorships, more money. Like I totally get it. I just wish that it had more of like an exclusive feel. And so having a strict cutoff line to enter a tournament, I feel like was just such good TV because it made it matter a bit more. So I'm excited to see. Obviously, it's guaranteeing that you're going to have the 39 best players from last year in the field.
100%, I agree. I think the one parallel I'm willing to draw between some of the current issues that we have on the Hawaiian swing with this tournament is that sometimes, for example, Kyle, your girl Gino Thidakun, this is her tournament debut, despite the fact that this is not the first time she's won. Obviously, sometimes we're obviously preceding the Asian swing on the LPGA Tour, which starts up in a couple weeks. But this being the first event, some of the LPGA winners who are Asian, which is like a pretty substantial portion of the successful women on the LPGA, they will sometimes stay out in Asia instead of coming here for 1 week before going and competing in Asia for the next couple weeks. But obviously, like I said, Gino Thidakun is in the tournament this week, so that will be very exciting. It'll be cool to see how, like you said, it's always fun to see the best of the best compete, and this is a great opportunity to do that. And yeah, she's one of the ones to watch. Like I said, it's a good storyline. Her tournament debut, she's Rookie of the Year. Kyle covered a lot of this. I'm not going to step on his toes much at all here. But yeah, she had previously skipped the event, and this will be her first opportunity. There's a couple other interesting storylines. We don't need to go too in depth here. Austin Ernst, this was a fun one that when I was looking into the tournament, I dug up that Austin Ernst, she's returning to play for the first time since June 2023, where she had a neck injury and the subsequent birth of her son. But she is, due to like medical exemptions, medical extensions, she is in this tournament from a win on the LPGA Tour in 2021 at the Drive On Champions, because it's the last 2 years of winners. She got injured in 2023 before that 2-year exemption to this tournament had expired, and then she's been medically exempt since then and has been medically extended to be able to compete in this tournament as one of the champions.
Wait, so because she didn't play, she didn't use her exemption?
Correct. Yeah. So the way the medical extensions work on the LPGA Tour essentially allowed her to maintain her qualification while medically unable to play golf. So this exemption to this tournament as a champion is one that she was able to hold on to from 2021 when she won, and she obviously would have competed in 2023 but was unable. And so here we are in 2026, and she is returning to play for the first time since June 2023.
I like that.
It's a fun little story.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to actually how we're seeing G League guys who didn't play in the NBA who still have college eligibility coming back and playing college basketball. It's very similar to that.
Let's just keep it on the course, Kyle. Keep it between the fairways, man.
So to get to some of the odds on DraftKings that we've seen for this Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions, like we mentioned, Kyle's follow-through Gino Thidakun is at the top of the board. Nelly Korda is close behind her with Charlie Hull following up. Charlie Hull, obviously one of the women we have not spoken about much. She had a great 2025, is coming on strong, rising up the Rolex rankings pretty consistently. Behind her is Lydia Ko, who is another person that was like pretty fascinating for me to look into. I don't think we've mentioned this yet, but so the LPGA Tour Hall of Fame has an algorithmic way to qualify, essentially. So you can qualify while you're still playing. It's not like a vote after the fact. But she cemented her position in the LPGA Tour Hall of Fame at just 27 years old in August 2024 when she won the gold medal in Paris at the Olympics. Now she is 28. She's added 3 more wins, including the 2024 Women's Open, her third major championship victory, which came shortly after that victory in Paris. One of the, just pretty fascinating to be, again, like I mentioned, so young, and she's like a veteran presence on the LPGA Tour. She's 28.
Yeah,
and
Nelly Korda's 27 too.
Yeah,
she's one of the veterans.
It's crazy how young these women get started and how quickly they establish themselves as like Gino Thidakun, like we said, 22 years old and like pretty inarguably the best in the world at this point, at this exact moment. We'll see. Hopefully, Lottie Wood takes your spot, Nick, for your follow through.
I'm hoping so. Yeah,
we'll see.
Gotta look
But yeah,
good.
some other names I note up here. Lottie Woad, like I said, is a little bit farther down. And yeah, Alim Kim defending her title just a little bit below her. So there's a lot to look forward to. It's a open tournament, although the odds do favor Gino Thidakun and Nelly Korda fairly heavily, as you might expect. Nelly coming off a fairly interesting year in 2025, a little bit, I won't say disappointing because she was still quite impressive. I think she made 19 cuts in 19 starts in 2025 and did tally 9 top 10 finishes. But again,
that'll play.
That'll play, but she didn't win. No wins. So she is here on her 2024 victory or victories, I should say, because in 2024 she made 13 cuts, 11 top 10 finishes, and converted 7 wins, which is pretty outrageous, including the 2024 Chevron Championship, which was her second major. So interesting to come off that year where she was 13 cuts and 16 starts, do better on cuts the next year, make all of them, 100% of your cuts in 19 tournaments, and pretty much do similarly in your top 10 finishes, but not be able to get across the finish line.
Wait, so what we discussed, I think what we said before was that if you win, you get a 2-year exemption?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So the 39 champions that are playing this year are winners from 2024 and 2025.
Got it.
It is not just 2025, which is why Austin Ernst was able to, because it's a 2-year exemption, so she continued to be able to
I see.
push it another couple years with the maternity leave.
This is fun. This is like learning a whole new tour.
I know, right? It's a good, it's a fun tournament. I do like the 2-year exemption. It would be so much worse if Nelly Korda wasn't in this field.
Exactly,
because she didn't win last year. If people like Nelly Korda, or my follow through, Hai-Jin Choi, she also didn't win last year. Hopefully, I guess she's not in this year. But if people like Nelly Korda who didn't win last year, but are obviously some of the historic biggest faces in women's golf, weren't able to compete on this tour, or on this tournament, that would definitely be disappointing. So it's great to see her out there. I do like the structure of the tournament. The only other, there is one more tournament worth mentioning. There's obviously a Korn Ferry Tour event as well, but we are going to talk very, very briefly about the Bapco Energies Bahrain Championship, which is taking place on the DP World Tour. I don't know, is there anything, Nick, Kyle, that you guys want to touch on? I know we have, a couple names maybe worth mentioning, but
I mean, first and foremost, Patrick Reed back in the field after his victory in Dubai. Definitely someone to keep an eye on. We'll see if he can carry it over for the week, just continuing to make his case of sort of expediting his return to the PGA Tour should he wish. Thomas Dietrich, notable live defector, most recent live defector in the field. Just some interesting names. I feel like definitely some storylines. We can, just looking a little bit down the line, we got Sergio in the field, Sergio Garcia, Antoine Rosner. Some definitely good names in there.
Yeah, nothing crazy. I think, when it loses a little bit of its magic when you lose Rory, you lose Tommy Fleetwood, they're no longer playing out there. Obviously, they Rory and Shane made the 18-hour flight back from Dubai to find themselves on TGL less than a day later. Very different results for those two guys. If you watch them step out there, Shane had a pretty drastic case of the rights, just could not keep it on grass. But
been there.
But yeah, there's still, like you said, there's still a couple names out there. There's Jaden Shaper, Angel Ayora are two of the ones near the top of the leaderboard with Patrick Reed. But not a ton that we are going to dive too deep into. I think we've spent a lot of time on the PGA Tour. We spent a lot of time on the LPGA Tour. Obviously, we are very, very excited for the LPGA to return, for Brooks to return. It's a great week to watch just like an exorbitant amount of golf, like so much golf that it probably is unhealthy. But that's what we're here for. It's what I want to do.
No such thing.
No such thing as too
Never
much golf.
blame the golf.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, I think why don't we jump into what we've got coming up next and close this thing out?
This works for me. Next on the tee.
Let's do it.
So we are trying to figure out our schedule for next week. We will be at the WM Phoenix Open. Look out for some written word for us. We're going to try and do a podcast. We're going to see how that goes, if it's even doable. We will be on the course starting on Wednesday. So regardless of if we're going to have a show, we will be active on our socials. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at CenterCutPod, Instagram centercup.pod. We're going to be tweeting throughout this weekend on the Farmers Insurance Open and the LPGA event, always keeping track of what's going on. and then leading up to the WM Phoenix Open, where we will be boots on ground. Looking forward to putting out various forms of content. We'll have short videos. We will have plenty of tweets, Instagram reels. Just trying to get you guys ready for that as we hit the full swing here, pun intended, as we move forward through this PGA Tour season.
And of course, we got our email address. If you have any suggestions, questions, or if you just want to tell Kyle how much we missed him on Monday, it's centercup.pod@yahoo.com.
Absolutely. And like Kyle said, we're going to try to work out a podcast, but at the very least, keep an eye out for some clips, some reels. We might even be on TikTok, maybe. We'll see. We're figuring that out. But
new news?
Definitely look out for some content from us. It's going to be a really, really exciting couple weeks.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for being with us, everyone. We will see you soon, and goodbye.